we going to start this off with a toast?
Well, toast, Beanie.
We got to give like a toast to this season. It was an
Am I allowed to open one?
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Let's just get it going. Hey, everybody,
Yes.
welcome to the Lettermen Rowquiem. I am Austin Ward from Lettermen Row. Got Beanie Wells. You guys know him. Tim May, contributor to Lettermen Row. And down here, our special co-host, partner, promoter today, Kevin Schoedinger, bringing this on. This was all his idea. First of all, before we start, we got a bunch of guests. They're going to talk about the 2019 Ohio State season that was, all the highs and the one low a little bit. But it was pretty good, and Kevin's going to get into it. But first of all, we'll just raise our glasses.
Raise our
So
glass
it was
to the
really a
season.
fun season for us to cover at Lettermen Row and the Ohio State Buckeyes. So thanks to Land-Grant for their beer.
Clank.
Cheers. All right, Kevin, first of all, tell us how this idea came to be for what we're doing here today.
Well, I was driving around. I was working on New Year's Day. And I was listening to the podcast. I couldn't get enough of the content. It's like I don't know why. I just need to relive this over and over again. I'm like, this feels like a funeral. As a funeral director, I was like, I recognize all these stages of grief that people are going through right now, and listening to just people process it. Oh God, here's the 10 plays that just could have gone different.
Oh.
And if it just gone different, then things would have been okay. I'm like, man, this is like what people talk about when something terrible happens at a hospital.
Yeah.
And so I reached out. I was like, you know what? Crazy. It sucks that it ended this way. But this was an amazing season. And I will say, in my lifetime, I'm 37 years old. In my opinion, I think this is the best team that I've ever watched.
Right.
And it's too bad that we're stuck here, just focused on the end. Let's take some time. Let's focus on the whole life.
Yeah.
Let's have a celebration of life here and talk about how this was such an amazing experience to go through this whole season. This is the only season I can remember where at no point in the entire season, right up until that interception against Clemson, that I was worried.
Right.
I was not worried this season. Even on that drive, I was like, we're going to pull this out. We're just going to pull it out. Mm-hmm. And it didn't happen. It's unfortunate. It's still an all-time great team. Let's focus on this. So we brought out the memory maker. If people want to go up, they can just touch the screen, leave their favorite memory, their favorite story, their favorite condolence, their worst gambling story, whatever it is. Leave it on there. We'll compile that and just have a great little session and put all those together for people to watch.
Yeah, it was really funny when you reached out to us, Kevin, about it, because Tim and I had just done the podcast, the first one at his podcast after the Fiesta Bowl. And, I don't know, we talked about, the ejection, the fumble, the couple drops, the Chris Olave play, and went on about that. And it's like, I know that as long as I cover Ohio State forever, that game is going to be talked about. I'm going to talk about it for the rest of my life. But that also came at the expense of all the previous memories. It's going to overshadow it all.
Yeah.
And, I'm thinking, and you sent the email, I'm like, well, you don't go to a funeral to talk about the way they died over and over.
No.
There was a really good life before that.
It took us a little time to get here. I'm glad we had a few weeks to process, but I think I'm about ready to talk about all of the good stuff that happened over this season.
Yeah, I think most people at a funeral, memorial service, they say that was a life well lived.
Right.
But, oh my goodness, the ending.
That's true for everybody, right?
Yeah, and that is, that's the way I look at it. And, I had Matt Finkus on my show this past week, and I keep asking some ex-players, I said, so where do you put this season? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Is it like the 2006 season? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That was great up until that, the grand finale, so to speak. Because it won't be up there with the national championship years, even though this was as impressive a 13-game run as Ohio State has ever put together. In my opinion, even to come from behind win against Wisconsin, I think there was an inevitability that night that you thought Ohio State was going to come back and win that game. But the way it ended just kind of puts it into another realm.
Yeah, Kevin, when you look back now, if you're walking over to the memory maker to get it started there, where does it, for you, the first thing that comes to mind, a positive 2019 memory?
Every single game, just sitting there watching, we're going to win today. Just the sheer confidence of every single game going into it. hey, I'm not worried about it. And that Wisconsin game, not worried about it. We're gonna come out. Oh yeah, we kind of futzed around. Great game plan by Wisconsin. Good job by you. But
Better
no,
than
it was-
38-7 the first time around.
Yeah. It was just the sheer dominance that we witnessed for the entire season. I mean, they covered every game except for FAU for
And
the
Rutgers
first,
somehow.
Yeah, well, Rutgers. Good lord.
Yeah.
That line got a little out of control. That's if you gamble.
Yeah, well, they had to get
not-
somebody
which not
interested.
concluded.
That was the whole deal. But
Yeah.
yeah, you're right. I mean, they covered. I mean, there was really the interesting thing going into every game was how are they going to play? Is Justin Fields going to have 3 touchdowns responsible for or 5? You know what I mean? I mean, there were things like that. Is J.K. Dobbins? They always held him. You know, he was a secret weapon in the big games, evidently, because those teams didn't see him coming. I mean, the 100-yard games and Beanie. You know, you watched that too. That he had as impressive a year as any running back in Ohio State history.
Oh, without question, in my mind, I think it is. I mean, you look at the numbers; it's the single best season in Ohio State history for
Yeah.
a running back. And then, like you talk about the big games, he always stepped up and played the best in his biggest moments. And for me, this football team, it is kind of nostalgic of the 2016 because obviously you beat a couple of number 2 teams, and then you lose the big one. So you're obviously devastated, and that memory is going to be in the back of your mind. But
Yeah.
like you said, I think this is the best Ohio State team that I've ever seen, top to bottom. And the fact that we were able to, not have a bunch of turnover on the defensive side of the football from the previous year. The only thing that we really changed was the coaching staff from the defensive side. And they went from one of the worst defenses from a stat standpoint in Ohio State history to probably the best that we've ever seen. And I don't know if it'll ever be matched.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting. I mean, we talked about, though, that last game, the reason it leaves that sour taste in your mouth is because they put away that bugaboo of giving up the big play all year, and then suddenly Clemson doesn't live without the big play in those games. The quarterback going the distance, that 4-play, 94-yard drive at the end. But then Ohio State still had the wherewithal to pull it out were it not for one bad read by a wide receiver, Chris Olave. And, I mean, that's what's so weird about it is that they were so in control for so long and then lost it.
All right, I'm going to keep these 2 guys around for a little bit longer, Kevin, but I know you've got some beers to drink and some memory makers to run over there. So the other thing you got to answer before you go is you got to award a 2019 MVP for the Ohio State Buckeyes. Who you got?
Ooh, J.K. Dobbins.
Okay.
I mean,
Go with-
he was the engine.
Beanie loves this, all right? So
Absolutely.
he's just going to let you keep going.
I mean, as Chase Young got all the accolades. Jeff Okuda
Fields.
does not get quite enough talk about him.
Yeah.
Justin Fields, it's quarterback, it's the premier position, but this season ran through J.K. Dobbins, and he was a man. He just made the entire thing go. And so that'll be, I think, what I remember. And shoot, how many times did he never even touch the ball in the fourth quarter?
Yeah.
Right.
How many second halves did he not? And he still ran for over 2,000.
He could have
1,000
pushed. We're at Land-Grant. He could have pushed that stake.
Yeah.
I mean, it would have been 2,500-yard stake.
So I think he's a little unheralded this season. Did not get the talk about him that everyone else did, but I think J.K. is the.
That's a good choice.
Yeah.
I like it.
season MVP.
We'll see how many people agree with you and Beanie as the show goes. I know he's
Well,
already
so I may have a surprise as the show
oh
goes
my
on.
goodness.
So
That would
You know
surprise
who he's
me.
going to pick? He's going to pick Demario McCall.
Well, if we're going to
Although
relive
that was my
2019,
guy.
we can have that conversation again. Kevin, we're going to let you out of here, man.
All right, thank
we
you.
really
Appreciate it.
you
Thanks
hosting
a
us.
lot.
We're going to take a
thanks for
quick
having
word
us with us.
from your company. We're going to get some more guys. We got a lot more Buckeyes coming in here. Former Buckeyes, a couple guys who played on that team last year. Drug them out to rehash some of those memories as well. So we'll be right back after a quick word. We'll be back here at Land-Grant.
Schoedinger is revolutionizing the way family and friends remember their loved ones. Our newest innovation is the Capstone Memory Maker, a touchscreen video recording kiosk that captures videos from guests at our visitations and funerals. Guests can record a video condolence, or even better, share a favorite memory or story. The Memory Maker could not be any easier to use. Simply press start and share your message. Why should you choose Schoedinger? No one creates more meaningful healing experiences.
You going to charge me? You got to get in line, man.
You know what's crazy? Right now, if I was at Ohio State, I would probably be a defensive lineman because I'm looking at
Look
BB
at
right
you,
now,
too.
and I'm looking at how big I am right now. I'll be on the defensive line, not playing running back whatsoever.
Hey, listen, with Coach Johnson, you be cold
Hey,
blooded, bro. I
man.
swear you
Heck yeah,
would.
man.
I swear you would.
That's the smooth segue back into Lettermen Row. That's BB Landers down there, and I guess the future defensive end,
Right.
Beanie Wells right
Gap
here.
jumper.
BB, thanks so much for hanging out with us right here to commemorate the 2019 season. I know that you're probably not over it. You might not ever be over it. I talked to you in the immediate aftermath in that locker room, and it was emotional for you guys. Has it felt any different in the 2 or 3 weeks, 4 weeks since then?
The times that I catch myself thinking about it, no. It's been, this process post Ohio State is kind of, since it's new, it's an up and down roller coaster, training and, preparing for the next phase of my life that, God has been fortunate enough to bless me with. But I can still say to this moment, I've yet to grow a pair to actually even watch the game back. So I'm still trying to work towards that. So, looking back, it was a special season, and I don't regret anything. But when I do catch myself just kind of playing it back and looking at everything in my mind that happened in the game, and Benny can attest to this, when you got certain games, you can play every single play back in your head. And it's like, if I would have done this, or if we did that, or da-da-da-da-da, and it's a bunch of what ifs. But it still hurts, but at the same time, too, man, this season was a blessing. The group of guys was a blessing. The way the season went was a blessing. Beating the team up north was always a blessing.
Yeah.
So, you
got the gold pants
Yeah,
out.
right.
Always. So, you couldn't ask for a better group of guys and a better season. Wish it would have went better than what it did, but, hey, chips didn't fall in our favor.
What's that one play from the game? What is the one play, if you think could have been redone, it would have changed everything? The old go back in time moment. One play. Don't give me 4. Give me one play.
I can't give you one play, but I can give you one quarter, second quarter.
Okay, 1 quarter. Yeah, second quarter.
Second quarter is like
Last half of the second quarter. Yeah.
everything that could have went wrong. Some things in our control, some things that weren't in our control.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
The Trevor Lawrence run was bizarre. I mean, in all kinds of respects.
And that was a fault on us as a defense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just bad communication. Didn't take our proper responsibilities. And, it's just one of those things where you're going to have moments in the game where, adversity's going to hit. And that was one of those moments.
That's what we talked about a while ago. That's what I brought up a while ago. Y'all have been y'all have been great about not giving up the gash play. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And boom, it bit you.
Yeah, and that's the thing when when you're playing against a team like that, they're elite from top to bottom, and it's just little mistakes against teams like that are big mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And it was one of those things where the slightest bad communication turned into a big play.
Yeah.
And when talent is equated, coach always say you revert back to your training. That's from Coach Meyer to Coach Day, Coach Mick, and it was one of those things where we just made that mistake, and at that moment in time, they capitalized on the play. And something with any other team that we might have played would have been, okay, a 10-yard gain, all right, new set of downs, try to get off the field. It just don't work like that all the time.
When you go back and you look at this season, you guys had a bunch of great moments, as we all know, and part of the reason why we're here because of those great moments.
We don't have to keep talking about the Fiesta Bowl.
And I want to drive that home too much on you, but I want to talk about, in your opinion, what was that point in the season to where you guys, as a team, as a defense, decided, you know what, we're good, and we're probably going to be one of those teams at the end of the year to be in the college football playoff fighting for a chance to be in the national championship? Was it like a point in the season where you guys just automatically knew, or was it going in, all right, we're good enough and we're going to be there?
Honestly, I would say camp.
Okay.
This offseason camp was very unique compared to last season. Coach Day took over just because of the stipulations and the situation that was going on, with Coach Meyer that's out of our control. So it was one of those things where, we bought into Coach Day in that time frame, but it was like, all right, this is for a short period of time. We got to come together. And I think that was kind of like the starting point leading into this season. It's because as an older, more experienced seasoned player, coming out of last season, a lot of us got to the point where we were able to build that trust with Coach Day. Mm-hmm. So coming into this season, we knew what the Buckeye way looked like just from being around Coach Meyer, being in the program so long. And at the same time, Coach Day brought his own unique aspect to our team because he's a little bit more laid back, cool, mild mannered, which I love because I'm like that
Yeah.
most days,
Yeah.
depending on my mood. And I feel like our program was driven a lot more by the older guys just because we knew what it was supposed to be. Like, Coach never really had the opportunity to jump on a player if they messed up in practice or bad communication or bad attitudes, because we took care of it ourselves. So I think me, as like I said, knowing what it's supposed to look like and being around some great leaders over my course of the 5 years, camp this past year is when I really saw, like, bro, this team is going to be special. You know what I mean? Like, we in practice, we getting at each other, we competing, we talking crazy. We had some days we had a little scuffle, but when you competing at that level, you know what I mean? Like, it comes with the game, and it's going to happen. You know what I mean? And how we looked at it was, to an extent of, we have the top players in the nation. So if I'm going against you on a day-to-day basis, I'm making you better, you making me better. When game time comes around, whoever lines up against me, I'm not even worried about it.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, like, that's just how we took the approach every single day from winter. And I think camp is when it really just kind of took off, and it's like, all right, this is going to be something special this year.
BB, we can't talk about the 2019 season without, your teammate, your rushman, counterhort there. Chase Young took the country by storm. He's a Heisman finalist on the defensive side. I know a lot of times the rest of the rushmen didn't get quite the attention that maybe they deserved, but for people who don't know what it's like to be around Chase, to play with somebody with his ability and everything that could come for him down the road, what was it like day after day to be around this guy?
For me, I was babysitting. It's like little brother, big brother. But no, I think for me personally, me and Chase were really close from the time that he stepped foot on campus. But just like going back to the big brother, little brother aspect, just watching his development and watching not only physically how he developed, but mentally and spiritually how he developed. It got to the point where he took the classroom just as serious, if not more serious, than when we stepped on the field. And I think that was one of the things that really elevated his game this year. It would be times, man, we'd be in the film room for hours, and we just cutting up, picking up on little tendencies. And sometimes we'd find things where coaches might not see, or it's some things that you just can't see on film. And when you watched as his game developed, as he developed and mentally slowed the game down, when we got to game time, man, it was just like, it was a show to watch, but it wasn't surprising because it's the same thing that he did in practice. He played Saturdays, Tuesday through Thursday, every week. And I think that was the biggest thing that I loved about him, because when you get to that caliber and you getting the accolades that he was getting and the praise that he's getting, as a kid that's not even 21 yet, it's easy to kind of fall into that.
Yeah.
And he never did. You know what I mean? Like, it was times where he's like, he does appreciate, the praise that he got, but at the end of the day, he always knew that his game could get better and he can improve. And Coach Johnson also let him know, hey, you might have had 4 or 5 sacks, but your step here was too short, or your eye placement was bad, or your hand placement was bad. So he never had a moment of getting complacent between Coach Jay and then even within himself. So I feel like that was one of the biggest things that I really loved watching from him this season. The physical aspects wasn't surprising. He's a freak of nature, and that's just what it was. But he worked to get there. And it was, God, when God give you a blessing, man, you got to run with it. And he ran with it.
Are you thinking about getting all 5 years smelted down into one big one?
I was thinking about it, but that's kind of expensive.
Gold
and
Rush,
it's not in my budget right now.
Yeah.
It's not in my budget right now.
Hey, real quick.
Yes, sir.
Before I ask you another question, I wanted to ask you about Chase. Is there a sense, obviously he set the school sack record for a season. Is there a sense you played with one of the great players to ever play there? Not that you weren't one of them too, BB.
No.
But do you kind of sense you'll look back on this? Hey, I played with Chase Young. I played with the Bosa boys.
Yep.
Yeah.
Honestly, and that's one of the things, man. That's one of the blessings about being at Ohio State. Just the players that you have the honor to play with and grow with is special. And one thing about Chase, he's edged his legacy in the Ohio State books. You know what I mean? And that's not easy to do, especially when you got legends like one standing right here next to us. Beanie Wells is one of the reasons why I became a Buckeye in the first place.
Well, explain that. Why's that?
Honestly, so I was born and raised a Buckeye. My uncle was nuts. Like 48 hours before the game, he's not allowed to talk to me. Like it's that bad. Like he would stress me out. But I still remember his highlight video from his junior year. And it was Till I Collapsed as the song on the video on YouTube. And I remember watching some games and like they would just try to tear his knees up, trying to cut him down. It's just like, bro, this dude's a freak of nature. And it was just like, Ohio State, I don't know why, I just had this vibe like Ohio State is where I want to be. Like that was my dream school. And it just so happened I was able to turn my dream into a reality. But this is one of the guys that kind of influenced that, believe it or not.
Well, I'm certainly glad we was able to get a player like him, man, based off of that highlight video.
Thank goodness that Beanie was able to stay for this segment.
Exactly.
Thank God.
Make me feel good, too, man, as an part.
Beanie's going to be signing your autograph here in a minute.
Hey, that's fine. As long as he ain't charging me, we good.
Real quick, keep this short, but what was that one player this year? Take yourself out of the equation on defense. Take Chase Young out of the equation. What's that one player that you will remember making the biggest rise from a year ago or
Baron
from
Browning.
last?
Easy.
Why do you say that?
Just his development. Number one, he's always had the athletic ability.
Yeah.
But mentally, his development this season took his game to a whole nother level. That is one guy that I can't wait to see what he does next year.
Yeah.
Now that he's in the defense, he's had that experience and he's comfortable. He's a freak athlete. Like I've never seen a guy of his stature play linebacker and move the way that he can move. 9 times out of 10, he can outrun any DB. No running back is outrunning him, and a quarterback is definitely not doing it. Now, he has his times where he's over-aggressive, you know what I mean? But that just comes with his development mentally and physically of the game. But Baron Browning, for me personally, is one of the guys that I felt developed the most and who I'm interested to see next season.
All right, I'm about to let you two go. Tim's staying with me. So you got this might be tougher for BB. You said you had a surprise. I'll let him think about it. Team MVP 2019.
I'm going defense.
Oh, boy.
The defense.
I did not see that coming.
The entire defense was insane. And to be able to, I talked about it a little bit before,
to
be able to make the jump in which they made without changing a bunch of parts. I mean, it was essentially the same defense that went out there, and they were drastically different. And I want to ask you, what was the cause of that? Was it the scheme that you guys were in that, allowed you guys to go out and play more freely than the 2018 season? Or was it, the seniors on that group?
It was a mixture of scheme and the seniors. Believe it or not, our scheme was basic. Coach's mindset was if we can't beat a team in our base defense, then we ain't gonna beat them. And that's just what it is, you know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, when it comes down to the course of a game, man, it's manhood on manhood. And if you can't sit down and play your base, the foundation of who you are and your identity as a defense and beat a team, it is hard to beat a team and you got to throw in a blitz every other play. You know what I mean? And I think one thing about that is as seniors, we took pride in that. You know what I mean? It came from this aspect of we know what we got. We've been wanting to display it. We have the opportunity now. We got to take it and run with it. You know what I mean? So we put more responsibilities on ourselves as upperclassmen, and we even put it on the younger guys. By the time we get 3 games in the season, you're no longer a freshman. You are a seasoned player. You have enough games and reps up under your belt. Now you got to play.
It reminded me of watching those defenses in the mid-'70s that when Ohio State dominated people, kind of like y'all did. It's like it was literally you could see y'all were having fun playing. You understand what I'm saying? As opposed to this is work. It looked almost like fun. Did it feel like that playing?
Yes, it was. I enjoyed every last moment of it. Even times where it's like, as an older guy, you like, dang, I only got 10 damn snaps this game. Like, what the heck? But it's like when you watching the young guys and you watching development and then you kind of step back and realize the time that you even put into helping them develop and helping coach develop them, it's like, all right, we got something special here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that was one of the biggest things for us is just everybody kind of bought into each other and to the program and to the vision that coach had to help us excel this season.
All right, we'll turn BB loose. Appreciate him hanging out with us. What a great career
Awesome.
from Robert Landers. He was a blast to cover.
Oh,
he actually came into the offices this morning. We're going to have some Buckeye Qs coming with him.
Yep.
Get him out of here. Shake his hand, Beanie. Appreciate you as well.
Always.
Get out of here.
Good to see you.
As the
He could probably
Lettermen
still play,
Rowquiem
couldn't he?
rolls along, we'll be right back.
Probably still play.
Ain't no probably about it. He bigger than me.
All right, welcome back to the Lettermen Rowquiem here at Land-Grant Brewing, downtown Columbus, celebrating the 2019 Ohio State season. We got another member of that team, another guy with a bunch of gold pants, Rashad Berry, tight end, defensive end, defensive tackle, 3
Two-way
techs,
star,
whatever.
man.
I mean, and this was just perfect. It had to be done. We were going to do a Buckeye Q earlier in the year because Rashad knocked you out of the record books. You were the last guy to play
No doubt.
2 ways in the same season.
That was my
same
last
game.
claim to fame at Ohio
It's
State.
gone. And this guy took it right here, so you're going to have to sort it out.
I am. We should have done a Buckeye Q on he could have broken down my 2-way play.
Oh, my
I could
God.
have broken down his.
It's not too late. Let's go right back down.
It's
All
not too late.
right, both of you guys. Rashad, it's for you. I mean, I know I asked you about this. You were in there. You did a Buckeye Q this morning. But to go back and forth, and you did it your whole career.
Yeah.
I mean, would you have wanted to just play one position? Do you think it helped you to play both ways? Like, how do you view it now that it's over?
Coming out of high school, I always told myself I wanted to play both sides of the ball. And, in college, that's rare to do. So I settled down at one position, and when the opportunity came, I just ran with it. Like, I wanted to do it so bad. And then, when the incident happened and Coach Jay came up to me and just said, "Are you ready?" I said, "Yes." Like, I've been wanting to do this. We've been talking about this for years now, so let's make it happen.
Was it like putting on another pair of shoes, or was it just going out and playing football?
It's going out playing football.
Yeah.
Defensive end is natural to me. I've been playing since I was 6 years old. Defensive end. And then tight end came when I was like about 11, 12. So, but it's natural. It's nothing.
You were stuck in that kind of that situation at tight end, and we're like 4 of you guys. You can't play 4 tight ends at once, even though it looked like they were going to try to one time.
No, definitely.
But
that would have been crazy.
Was it for you
Strength
too?
of the unit.
Yeah. Was it for you? You wanted to get on the field no matter what. I mean, what's that kind of feeling like, and then finding that way? You follow my drift there?
So definitely splitting 4 ways with tight ends is. I mean, it takes a toll on you. You only get about like 20, 25 plays each.
Yeah.
So
and that's in practice, right?
Right.
No.
So like in the game, so going to the defensive side and just adding more reps, game reps is just something I wanted, I needed, and it just helped me out for the scouts. And I got some scouts looking at me for defensive end and some for tight end and fullback. So I mean, it helped out all around.
That sounds like 2012 to me, man.
No doubt. Rashad's still answering some of these questions like he's still in school. Given the
the party line.
A to Z, the
politically correct.
The politically correct answer. Honestly, I think Rashad can back me up on this. When you start on offense, we both started on the offense side of the ball. Offense is so much harder than defense because when you get on defense, it's kind of like line up and go, right?
Yeah,
I mean, you play it
definitely.
when you're a little kid, right? It's kind of
easy,
when whoever's got the football, you're running after them, going to tackle them.
Right.
On offense, you actually got to know the plays. You got to know, hey, on this route tree, I'm running this. On this run play, I'm doubling with the tackle on defensive end up to the linebacker. On this play, I'm not doubling. I'm just going right up to the linebacker, right? So from an offense standpoint, there are so many more X's and O's that you need to know. Defense is like, hey, go out, line up, go get the football, right? Go make a play. So, I mean, like I said, it's so much easier when someone starts on the offensive side, goes to the defensive side. And, when I came out, I was a little bit different. I'm a lot shorter than Rashad, right?
Oh, hey, I didn't notice.
I'm not as athletically gifted as Rashad, right? So I think me being a fullback going to linebacker kind of confused stuff where I think for Rashad, it brings his draft stock up, right? People are going to see him playing on the end. People are going to say, the dude can play fullback, tight end, H-back, whatever you want to call it, and he can play defensive end, and he can play stand-up outside linebacker, right? There's so many different things that he can do. Now he's got game tape on it, so I think it was perfect for what he was able to do.
I was just talking to him about that before we started the show. I mean, I've heard a little buzz about him because if you look at the NFL now and the way they like to pick these role players, and role can be a guy who plays a bunch of roles, his stock has been enhanced greatly because on top of everything else, he can run. And then when he did play tight end, you saw him catch the ball. I mean, it was, it wasn't some guy out there slumbering, blumbling around. And so
we watched that UNLV touchdown this morning. So
I was telling him that, the big key now for him is to get the buzz out that people are interested in him. And that way you can go from maybe a high-end free agent to actually getting drafted. And we know what that little foot in the door does for you.
Yeah, well, I think that'll be the testing. And you're getting ready in Pennsylvania right now. Rashad, like, take us through that process. What are you doing out there? What's a week like for somebody trying to get ready for the draft?
I'm out there with Terry Grissetti Performance. A great program. I love him. He's the head strength coach at Youngstown University. And, every day we spent 2.5, 3 hours just working out upper body on Monday, Tuesdays, core, Wednesdays, agility drills. And I just feel like the way he's handling it and the way he has it set up is just perfect. I feel my body getting better. I feel like, when you're getting sore, it's working definitely.
Yeah.
He knows football, so I really just I'm glad I picked that program, and I want to run with it. Like I love it out there.
Does Malik Hooker ever drop by?
Nah,
He's from that area.
He's a little busy.
Rashad will tell you, I think getting ready for the draft is completely different. It is a niche thing, right? It's not – when you start getting ready for the draft, I hate to say it, it's sometimes not about football, right?
Yeah,
it's not about
definitely.
what you can do on a football field. It's about perfecting your body, perfecting your full body movements, perfecting your flexibility, perfecting how I can get from A to B to C in a shuttle, right?
Yes.
It's how can I get the most explosive stance on a 40-yard stance that you'll never use again in your entire life, right? There are so many things that you do from a draft standpoint, even on-field drills that pro teams have you do during pro day that you never do when you're actually playing football and practicing,
correct,
right?
yeah.
So it's a completely niche thing of training for the NFL Combine. It's something you do for 3 to 4 months. And like Rashad said, it's completely different. You feel muscles that that are hurting that you never used before because you're just doing completely different movements. So you'll bang on that for 3 to 4 months, perfect it, go out in April, whatever it may be. If he goes to the Combine in February or Pro Day in end of March, early April, whatever it may be, and then a couple workouts, and then you'll never use it again. Then you go off in May, and you're going to rookie minicamp, and it's back to playing football.
From an analytical standpoint, though, the reason they do all that is because they've got video on you,
Right.
but they want to know how that video translates to, speed-wise.
Definitely.
I mean, okay, you can look really good doing this against a lesser opponent,
Right,
but how
right.
does it all stack up? And you understand why they do all that.
No,
Number
yeah,
3,
definitely.
they got all this dead time. They got to come up with some ways.
What are you talking about? Hey, what are you talking about, Tim? Sometimes I don't understand why they do things that way. I have no idea.
Well, I know.
It
That's why you're not running an NFL team.
Listen, I have
Be a
no
sports
idea.
writer and drink beer.
But you're right. But I think that's the confusion,
You
right?
can
I
work
think,
for the Browns.
I couldn't because the Browns want to go analytical, and I've got no sense in analytical, right? I don't understand that thought.
That's
right?
just their way of defining people. You know that.
No,
You
I
fought
agree.
that battle your whole
I
life.
fought the battle my whole life. I agree, but I don't understand. Well, some teams understand what they're doing, but
Yeah.
I sometimes don't understand why they're doing certain things.
Get the
Because
football player.
be a football player. That's why I honestly believe the New England Patriots. That's why I believe some of these other teams, even the Pittsburgh Steelers, they have so much success because they look at guys, how they play football, and not so much how they're testing analytically, how they're tested on different things that they do, how they're testing on their scores that you take during the combine.
On
right?
my podcast this week, I had Matt Finkus on. We all remember when Mike Vrabel got drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers. They had no idea what to do with him.
Exactly.
And then, boom, Bill Belichick couldn't wait to get his hands on him, turned him into Mike Vrabel, who now all of a sudden, 2 years later, people in the draft are looking for the next Mike Vrabel.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
that may very well
you're
be
right.
what happens with the Rashad Berry.
Exactly.
No doubt.
That's what I'm trying to tell him, man. They're looking at things differently than they were 20 years ago.
Right.
I mean, they're looking at guys that have some video that they can put in their heads, but also check off some of the analyticals.
But at the same time, I think going through this process, that's why it's so important to have an agent who understands you, right? Because you have to sell yourself as a football player by what you do and how you test, even if it's stuff you don't do well, right?
Yeah.
But it's your agent's responsibility on the back end to sell you to the teams as a football player and how you will fit in. And that's why you see so many times about guys, even if they do get drafted in the first round, right? There are guys who get taken to certain teams that never pan out to anything because they don't fit what that team is trying to do, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And so many times, you know what, we talk all the time. We see it now. There are times where I would rather have someone go in the third round compared to the first round if they're going to a team in the third round that, guess what, is going to set them up to succeed, right? Just example, Taysom Hill. Look what he's doing for the New Orleans Saints, right? Look from
Rashad,
what
can you throw? Can we throw that in there too?
a little bit. But for what he's able to do, he goes anywhere else, I don't know if he has a career. He's probably
Correct.
out
No, correct.
in the real world, right? He's being
Yeah.
a trash man like me. You know?
Taking
All right.
out the trash.
All right, that's the end of the
Hey, let me-
Rashad Berry
no, but
appreciation. We
let-
needed to ask him about 2019.
I was going to say
He's going to be a pro.
You feel
okay.
like you were part of something extremely special this year. What's your takeaway from this football team and what it felt like to be a part of it?
I feel like I was, like you said, a part of something very special. This team was not like we didn't know where we were gonna go with this team. Like honestly, we did not know if our defense is gonna be up to par, our offense is gonna be together.
And you knew that. You were thinking that when in July.
And
you were
this is
thinking
more
that,
so winter workouts. So as soon as
Yeah.
the 2018 season ended, it was winter workout. Like he sat us down before match. He said, "Where are we gonna go? Like where is this team about to be?" And obviously, you see where it went. We made history, and a lot of people didn't expect that.
but when did you see it as a player? When did you
I
see
feel
that?
like fall camp. Once all the pieces started getting together and everybody started clicking, it was just like wow, like we could really be special. Like we never it's been a while since defense and offense on the same team has been top one, top two, and it's rare to have that, and it was special. So we try to take advantage of it. I mean, the season was remarkable. Other than the last game, it is what it is.
Yeah.
They took away two touchdowns,
man.
but
We're not even going to bring it up.
right. But the season was historical.
Isn't it
beautiful.
amazing? I mean, everybody, we can talk about that last game all we want, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
and I was
blah, blah,
talking
blah.
about some of the plays the defense gave up. Bottom line is, an official in the press box took 7 points off the board.
Well, he wasn't in the press box. He was in Birmingham.
Well, in Birmingham. Relayed.
Right,
it was relayed through the press box. How does that sit with a player? How does that sit with you, Rashad?
I mean, like I said, it is what it is. You can't harp too much on it. I mean, it happened. You can't take it back.
Do
So,
you understand it? I mean,
Nah, I don't understand it at all. I mean, like I said, the Jeff fumble, that's a fumble. You know, the diving catch by J.K., that's a touchdown. You can't hurt us like that in them type of ways. But then again, we got to execute in the red zone still. Like we had multiple opportunities in the red zone, so we can't take that away too. But at the end of the day, I mean, 2 touchdowns, that's critical. We
only needed one of them.
We only needed one of them. We would have never been in that position at the end of the game. We would never have to rush. We could have held the ball, took a knee.
Right.
So
I think
it is what it is.
And Rashad, we've been in the same position, right? And I think something that Rashad could back me up on, and what people don't realize is, after the game, especially that game, right?
Yeah.
People are like, "Why didn't we do this? Why didn't we do that?" In a game when momentum's starting to shift, you see it when you're watching it on TV. I was in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, watching it on TV. I could feel the momentum, and it was in Phoenix, Arizona. People in Columbus, people at the stadium. You can feel it. If you can feel it, the teams can feel it, right? And so when you get in that position as a player, you look around, and that's when you get intense. That's when you start yelling and say, hey, let's make a play. Someone's got to stand up. Let's go. That's when the motivation starts kicking in. And at that point, as a player, you go into fight or flight, right? It's like, I'm going to do everything to make a play. And sometimes you do something a little too aggressive to make a play, and guess what? They hit you for the big one, right? And so looking back now, I'm sure guys, I'm sure Rashad has maybe watched the game, but those coaches that went back and watched the game, and they're like, oh my gosh, why didn't we make just this adjustment? Why didn't we do this? And it's because in that moment, when you are a player, when you are a coach, it's like we got to make a play, a game-changing play, a turnover, whatever it may be, a big play to change the momentum and flip the game upside down. It sometimes just doesn't go your way. And then when you've got the refs and a couple big plays that you think actually finally flipped it, and then they get turned over, it's kind of like, man, okay, let's go. We got to go again,
but it
right?
takes a toll on you, too, at the same time. It's like you taking away touchdowns. Like we need those. We know it's the correct call, but it's like you flipping it just because. And it hurts, but at the end of the day, man, that's just how the cookie crumbles.
Touchdowns are the gold pants.
Especially, I guarantee you, right? I guarantee you, once Jordan Fuller made that return, especially with the way Clemson had momentum, he gets that for a touchdown. Guess what? The guys on Ohio State, we're starting to talk trash to the Clemson guys, right? We're letting them know that, guess what? We haven't went away. We're back, right? And then once that play gets flipped back, it's like, oh, my God. All right, we got to go again, right?
Go again,
And Rashad might know. I mean, we don't have to keep talking about it, but you could tell that Dabo Swinney knew that it should have been a touchdown, the Jeff play, the Jordan return. I'm sure the players out on the field knew that. They were getting ready to put the return team back out there, block the extra point, whatever. Like, they knew what that call should have been. Everybody in the entire world except one person. And that's the one that unfortunately cost you guys. But when you think Rashad back on 2019, for the good times. Is there a game, a play? What'll be the first thing you think about?
I think the Big Ten championship game was just like set the tone. Like, yeah, we are definitely a team that should have been competing in the national championship.
Yeah.
Because it's hard. Like I said, it's hard to beat a team twice. You know, when we go back to watch film, we seen everything that we did good. We could, you know what I'm saying, correct little stuff. But when they watch film, they seen everything that went wrong. So that first quarter, their scheme worked, you know?
Yep.
And it's just like, okay, we just fight it out. But after that, it's like, who's the best team? Ball is ball, you know? At the end of the day, ball is ball. And so we came out and 24-0. It's like we knew we was the better team. We should have been competing in the national championship.
Yeah, I think that was my favorite part of 2019,
Yeah.
right? We go to the Lettermen Row office every week and break down the games. But from my standpoint, I think that was the second Wisconsin, the Big Ten championship game, right?
Mm-hmm.
In my mind, is like, as a former player, as a fan now, it's like that's the best feeling, right? When a team comes out and throws their haymakers at you and connects, and then you come out at halftime and say, guess
All
what?
right,
Hey, it's our turn, right?
Right,
and then you dominate a team like that and end up winning a game by double digits, especially playing a Wisconsin team a second time. I mean, as a player on that team, as a coach on team, that's when you start to be like, oh man,
definitely.
this is special.
That was Muhammad Ali, George Foreman.
Oh, yeah.
Y'all did the rope-a-dope in the first half, and then you came out.
That might be a little
knocked
bit
them
before
out.
Rashad's time. Tim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
You've heard of Muhammad Ali. Please tell me.
I know.
You got the George Foreman grill, right?
Yeah, right.
So Rashad, here's a question. You can answer it as politically correct as you want, but I'm sure a lot of people are wondering this. What's it like playing for a first-year head coach, especially at Ohio State? You know, having Ryan Day the first time.
Yeah.
Granted, he was interim coach a couple times last year, but this year, first time being in charge. What was that like, especially compared to being with Urban Meyer your first couple years?
So the best way I can explain it is that Urban Meyer is more so just old school, and like, you know, he wants stuff done his way, and it works, you know, but like, everybody ain't, you know, it's modern day. Kids are different nowadays. Yep. So, but Coach Day is just more, like I said, modern day. Like, he was more relaxed, laid back. Like, he coached around you. He didn't really he didn't want that stress to be on you because he didn't want people to worry and mess up in the games. He wanted everybody to be confident and comfortable. So I feel like having Coach Day as a first-year head coach was great, man. I mean, everything was fun. When it was time to lock in, it's time to lock in. But at the end of the day, it was a lot of memories.
Is this simple? I mean, because this is the way it's been explained to us. I mean, and, you know, I've talked to a bunch of people. Urban Meyer liked having you guys on edge. Keeping you on edge.
No, definitely.
And including his coaching staff.
No.
Was Ryan Day laid back? May not be the right word because y'all still played, but I mean,
when I mean laid back, I mean like he just gave more time to like take a breather. You know, he's not always on edge every time you're in the woody. You know, But when it was serious, it was serious. Like it has to be done. We got to do it this way. You know, but
when they decided they were going to try to play you both ways, you know, last half of the season. Did that go through him? Did you have to have a meeting with him, or did that just all of a sudden one day they're telling you?
Honestly, I mean, Coach Jay told me they was talking about it for a week now. I don't know if it went through him, but I mean, obviously it did because, you know, I mean,
it's got to go on his desk.
We got to confirm everything, but I mean, he was cool with it. Like he was whatever helps, you know, and he knows my abilities, so we ran with it.
I think Rashad hit the nail on the head from talking to a lot of people. I played for Urban, especially this first year when things were crazy, right? Yeah. You know, I asked that question because I wanted to hear it from a player's perspective because from what I've heard, is same thing that Rashad said, is that when you play for Urban Meyer, you could play the biggest game of your life, Wisconsin at home, college game day, right, whatever it may be. You could play that Saturday and that Sunday. He's just as intense as he was on Saturday and wants you to be on. As soon as you walk in, even the day after a game on Sunday when it's supposed to be a light day, you're getting massages, guess what? You are turned on. And so I think that's why over the years, Rashad was playing, I think you saw the Purdue losses. I think you saw the Iowa losses because at some point when you are on at all times, you just mentally wear down. You wear down, right? Yeah. And so what I heard is that Ryan Day came in with the exact opposite perspective on it, is that the guys are going to be relaxed but focused during the week. Yeah. And then guess what? They can have fun. You know, it doesn't have to be on. And they, you know, pressure doesn't have to be on all the time. But then guess what? Friday, I'm going to turn it up. And then Saturday, guess what? I'm really going to turn it up and I'm going to set the tone. And I think as a player, it's like, okay, I can relax during the week. I can take everything in. And then I know when Ryan turns up, it's my time to turn up instead of being turned up Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday throughout every single day. It's hard to do that.
Yeah.
All right, Zach, you just stick around for one more? Or are you need some beer? What do you need?
I can stick around. I'm out of my corner of my eye. I'm watching Tiger Woods because I'm a huge Tiger fan.
You know
this. I'm a huge Tiger fan. I think he's like 2 under through 5 right now. I think he just missed a birdie putt.
I've got my daily fantasy going.
There you go.
Golf,
so he's 2 under through 5. Hopefully a small, short par putt. There you go. So
we'll keep him, but we'll let Rashad get back to it, man.
There you
Hey, what a great career! It's a pleasure covering you, man. Congrats on everything. We'll be right back with the Lettermen Rowquiem, brought to you by Schoedinger Funeral and Cremation Services. All right, let's keep it going on the Lettermen Rowquiem. Hanging out here at Land-Grant, brought to you by Schoedinger Funeral and Cremation Services. We got the sharpest dressed man in Columbus here today.
Hey, guess what? Selling all of your Aflac needs. Everything Aflac, Reid Fragel's got you.
It's not my fault we had a work event timed up with this today.
From business to personal
He thought we were having an actual funeral today.
Yeah,
yes,
no doubt.
I thought it was a funeral service going on.
I think you look sharp, Reid.
Paying his proper respects.
Sticking out like a sore thumb.
Is that the
Appreciate you
same
coming
when
to
you wore
hang
to
out,
Stoney's
Reid.
wedding?
It's same suit, yeah.
Yeah, same suit. That's what I thought.
Yep.
It's good.
Don't remember much
Getting
from that
some
night,
use.
but I
Yeah, how do you remember a suit of all the things?
That's some inside
I
information.
remember.
You guys remember everything. Zach remembers everything from breaking it down. So,
No doubt.
2019 season, Reid. You look back. We've talked about the Fiesta Bowl. We don't have to break it down anymore.
Yeah, please.
When you think about what that team did, a game, a player, what will be the first thing that comes to your mind after the bad memory?
From that game?
From 2019 season.
2019
It's wide
season?
open for you.
All right, so we don't have to necessarily pinpoint that game.
You don't. Give me a good memory.
I don't know. I think just watching Chase Young finally, I mean, it's probably even beaten like a dead horse, but seeing Chase Young finally flourish, I think after seeing him, what he could be when I was there 2 springs ago, just watching him as a young player, seeing the ability that he had and the potential, and see that finally come out this year was pretty special, as we all saw, obviously. I wish he could have played those 2 other games to see what his numbers really could have been. I think that would have been cool. But nonetheless, I'm excited as hell to see him at the next level. So
we haven't even mentioned it. 16 and a half. We did say he was a Heisman Trophy finalist, and if you throw in, I mean, really the two stat padding games in the Big Ten, Maryland and Rutgers.
Oh, yeah.
And he had just had 4 sacks against Wisconsin. I don't know where that goes. I mean, it's still the school record. It was still a great year.
Yeah.
I hate to say this. I hate to say this, right? I have so much respect for Chase Young. Love him as a player. Love him as a person. But those 2 games, what happened to him, and you say the Pat Statting games, it's kind of like it took the wind out of his sails, right? He comes back, right? He's got Penn State. He played, I think, it was Penn State, right?
Penn State
played well. Michigan plays well, right? But never really had a sack in the Big Ten championship game. Wisconsin's kind of knew, hey, we played them before, gave up 4 sacks. We kind of know how to deal with them. And then you saw Clemson kind of do the same thing. And it's kind of like those 2 games, which I think unfairly took him out, right? I think he kind of lost his momentum a little bit.
Yeah.
You know what, Joe?
But I think it brings up a bigger thing because the last 5 or 6 games of the year, he didn't really have a sack, really, and he still finished with 16 and a half.
But they were letting guys, I mean, it was crazy the last 3 games of the year, especially, how they were letting guys get away with all this.
Oh, yeah, he was.
I mean, it really makes you scratch your head and like want to do an investigation almost, just what they let people get away with when it came to holding him. And I'm thinking you're sitting there watching him going, how would I block this dude, right, without holding him?
Yeah, and you see a lot of tackles struggle with him and the double teams. I mean, they're chipping him with the running back, and he's still getting pressure on the quarterback.
Yeah.
But, yeah, you're absolutely right. You watch him, and me as a tackle, I'm watching how these guys are approaching him, how they're going to block him, and you see nothing but the hands and the grabbing, and I'm like, how the hell is this ref not calling this?
Hands to the face.
Yeah, it was
Imagine
just
if you'd been allowed to do that, Reid. You'd have been the greatest.
I'd still be playing.
Dude, on the second biggest play, I think, of the Fiesta Bowl, when Shaun Wade gets thrown out of the game, is a great photo because Chase Young was about to have his first sack of the game.
I remember seeing that picture you're talking about.
And the right tackle has a hold of his face mask right in front of the officials. By the way, the officials threw no flags on that play. That came from, as we say, Birmingham or wherever. But but the bottom line was, I mean, that's what it took to stop him, and they let him be stopped.
Yeah,
Would that bother you as a player? It wouldn't bother you as a tackle.
I was going to say, as a defensive end, I'd be pissed. But I don't know. I watched that game in particular, and I don't want to go back to it too much because it's tough. But that game in particular, it seemed like they were doing everything and getting away with everything that you look at as a fan, and you're trying to say, like, am I being biased by just seeing all this? Am I like overly looking at this? And but it was just tough to watch, man. Like those last couple games, like Zach said, like he just seemed like he kind of shut down a little bit, or they figured him out maybe. Yeah. Maybe the wind got taken out of his sails from that suspension. But nonetheless, it was a hell of a season. That all being said, I mean, 14 and a half sacks, whatever it was. I mean, that's
16 and a half. Yeah.
16 and a half, yeah.
Answer the $64,000 question here, though. What made the
Who's
Ohio
paying
State
out the
offensive line? I know, it's just chump change now.
No, you paying that out?
No, I'm not.
Oh, okay.
Is that a Boren Brothers donation?
No.
It's a euphemism. It's
So
a
I
euphemism,
asked. I'm
ladies and
trying to
gentlemen.
get to $64,000. I want to know the facts before he answered.
What changed the most for the Ohio State offensive line from last year, from being able to run block again? Was it the rise of Justin Fields as a double threat again in the backfield, or was it just some guys coming of age up front with a big-time running back behind them?
I think it's a culmination of things. I think that's definitely one thing. You have a quarterback back there that can scramble, obviously, to keep the defensive line on their toes. But the more I think about this, you ask about a player that stood out last year, Wyatt Davis.
Yeah.
I mean,
You were talking about him in spring ball.
Yes.
Yeah. And you were definitely right about this guy, the way he developed.
Yeah, so
Right
just
guard.
to see him come out and flourish the way he did, and like I said, that spring, I think it was 2 springs ago, I was helping out a little bit at the line. To see him really harness that energy and that tenacity, that aggressiveness that he wasn't really able to do as a freshman, kind of undisciplined, but to see him kind of put it all together this year and excel. I think it was first team All Big Ten. That was something sweet, and obviously I think he's a Detroit kid too. So
well, to get
see that,
to get him
Is
to
he a
come back,
Detroit kid?
I think so. Yeah,
I
Wyatt.
thought he was from California, right?
his dad from somewhere in that area.
Yeah.
Or I'm thinking of. I'm sorry, Josh Albee.
You're
That's what I'm
going
thinking of,
Josh
yeah.
Albee, yeah.
But,
But I mean,
yes,
but
St.
Wyatt
John
Davis,
Bosco
you know,
for Wyatt Davis.
his grandfather, you know, played for the Green Bay Packers. Willie Davis.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so he's got it in his genes.
But yeah,
I'm sure they squashed the Detroit Lions when he played for him too.
I agree with Reid. I think it was a culmination of a lot of things. Granted, you know, this year is different because you had Jonah Jackson, Josh Myers, and Wyatt Davis up there in the front. I think you had a revamped J.K. Dobbins who didn't have Mike Weber breathing down his neck and kind of thinking he had to break the big one because his touches were limited. I think J.K. Dobbins went into last season, said, I'm going to become a workhorse, refocused, revamped his body to become the player he is today. And I think it was just his season to say, hey, I know I'm going to get 25 to 30 carries a game, and I'm going to get behind these offensive line. They are road graders, those guys up front, those three guys. I think, and when you add in Justin Fields' capability to be able to run the football and throw the ball downfield, I don't think teams could jam up the box like they used to.
Well, I think there's probably, and Reid can speak to this much better than I can, obviously, but you know, when J.K. Dobbins was forcing it in 2018, it can't be as much fun to block for him. You can't be as invested in if you know he doesn't care. He's just going to bounce something out and try and extend a play and hit a home run. He's not going to take the way it's drawn up. But if you know that J.K. Dobbins is going to take the hole you give him and then build from there, or if Carlos Hyde is going to never lose a yard and make you look bad, or whoever else, you know, that's got to be just a different mindset.
Yeah, and there's no – I mean, that's bringing back memories of certain plays that stick out as a lineman where, you know, you're blocking your guy and you see this hole developing, and it's the point where you're able to even look back and say, what the hell am I missing here? Why is he – come on. Any
Where's
second
that
now
flash?
he's hit that hole. But there's no worse feeling as a lineman to have a hole develop and to have it not get hit. So anytime you got a guy that's disciplined enough to hit that hole, to recognize it, like Carlos Hyde was so damn good at that.
Yeah.
So that was a great feeling every single week. You see Carlos, I mean, it could be the smallest glimpse of a hole, and he would hit it and make something out of it. So as a lineman, there's no better feeling than you have a running back back there.
Well, Zach did that too, didn't he?
I didn't really get to
Come
see
on,
all
man.
that at Ohio State.
Come on, man. You didn't see me get to Miami of Ohio senior year. Come on, I had a touchdown that game.
I love how they
think
rob Peter to pay
come on,
Paul
man.
though,
I
and
think I had
they still have a fullback in their
I had like
scheme.
3 or 4 carries that game.
Yeah.
Come on now.
Yeah,
I
he lit it up.
It's funny how the offense has come around with Ryan Day, where it's almost like Zach would have a role in this offense now. Like we just talked to Rashad Berry for a while. Like you could have been in that H-back role a little bit. You think like Urban was phasing you out, and now the game is shifting where the 2-3 tight ends are in vogue, and you might have been able to slip out, get some play action in the flat.
Yeah, you know what? I think, yes, I agree with you there, but I also think 2012 was a culmination of things, right? I've used that word a couple times now, but Reid will tell you in spring ball and in fall camp they had me drop a lot of weight. I was playing running back. In spring ball there was a big package of like me being the they called it Rhino package. It was direct snap to me, right? And we were running it all the time. And
I don't remember that one.
No one ever saw it. We always did it in scrimmages where media wasn't allowed. It was called the Rhino package.
I forgot about that.
It was direct snap to me. I swear, one scrimmage we ran it 25 times and had so many carries. I even had a jump pass. I had a T-bow off of it to Jeff Hireman. I swear, this is all true. I'll pull out the footage, right?
Wow.
So, but I think it's a culmination of things because early on in that season, I think they did bring me in and I was being used.
Yeah.
But I think Carlos Hyde just took off, right?
Well,
and when Carlos Hyde takes off and you look at me,
compete.
it's tough to compete, right? So I think they wanted Carlos Hyde to do more things, and then obviously there were some injuries, and so then that's why I went over the linebacker.
That's the one thing about Urban that I didn't get, though. I'm serious. I didn't think, we saw the Tim Tebow pass, by JT against Penn State. I think we saw it one time, and of course Clemson resurrects it for the winning touchdown. I mean, go. But that was the one thing would you call him conservative? I mean, in some respects.
No, I do know this. 2012.
You know what conservative means? You stick with what's working.
I know. This is what I do know, though. So we ran that in spring ball, and then we ran it again like in fall camp just a couple times.
Yeah.
And it was the Michigan game. Our last game of the season, we're down the goal line. I was playing defense, but obviously I was up and rooting on the offense. I was trying so hard for him to call the Tebow pass and let me go in and jump pass.
Oh, yeah.
Granted, I'm a little shorter than Tim Tebow.
Legend.
But
I mean,
I think
if you had had that in addition to the hit.
It was coming.
This beer wouldn't even be named after Urban.
Oh,
this would
it was
be the Zach Boren.
No, I know. I was trying,
brew.
but back to conservative, maybe a little bit, but I think that year he was a little limited, right? You had Braxton Miller, who, let's be honest, was a great quarterback, probably the best athlete to ever come out of Ohio State, but wasn't the greatest passer, so was had to run the football. Carlos Hyde was a great runner of the football. You had an offensive line of Reid Fragel, Corey Linsley, Jack Mewhort, Andrew Norwell. I mean, I forget who the other guard was that year, but I mean, come on.
Marcus.
Yeah, Marcus Hall, right?
Yeah.
That line is stacked. You're just going to give the football, and I think that's where you talk maybe conservative.
Well, what I call conservative is your default play is a quarterback keep. You know what I mean? You're instead of the Rhino package. I mean, you know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, that was his default play throughout, including with J.T. Barrett. And, there's more than a couple of ways to skin a cat, even in short yardage, is my point. And, you did all this work to get rid of the fullback, and now all of a sudden you need
I would have loved the
fullback.
Rhino package, Tim.
Yeah.
I would have loved it.
You're still what I'm saying.
Never even showed it.
Yeah. I think that would have been great to write about, the Rhino package.
Now we know about it.
I totally forgot about
the
that.
zoo.
But
The zoo would have named a Rhino after you.
maybe because I wasn't the one getting the ball. Maybe it was more up your alley. But
all right, Reid, Zach, take us back to 2019. If you're going to name one guy as the MVP of that team, I know it's hard because you got two Heisman finalists, one on either side of the ball. J.K. didn't get invited. I mean, you could throw in Okudah for what he did for the secondary. There's a bunch of different ways to go. That team was so loaded with talent and will be in 2020 as well. But if you had to pick one guy, Reid, where would you go?
The MVP, I mean, it's hard to look past. I know we already talked about it, but Chase Young's performance, I mean, you can't look past that. But again, like you said, there's so many different ways you can look at this team. Like, how the hell did it not end with a national championship? And that, to me, is why it's so frustrating. I mean, I haven't been as frustrated about a loss since my playing days when I watched that damn game.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, that one just
the
didn't
same
sit
thing.
well. Yeah. So it's just, you look at this team, and Chase Young, I think, is just the first name that comes to my mind just based on the numbers that he had this year were incredible, minus 2 games.
Yeah.
And I think he's going to do great things at the next level. But there's Okudah, like you said. I mean, the stuff he was doing in the secondary is just – I mean, he's probably going to be the 3rd overall pick, and Chase Young's probably going to be number 2. So I don't know. I would give it to Chase Young. Short answer.
I think Chase Young is a great pick. The reason why I don't go with Chase is because the person I'm going with, I think, was more of a leader in the locker room, was more of a voice out on the field. He obviously played every game, and that's J.K. Dobbins, right? In my mind, I think he's the MVP. You saw the offense run through J.K. every single week. He's a guy that I know made so many strides from the end of 2018 through 2019. And like I said, nothing against Chase Young, but J.K. was there every game. J.K. was a big voice in the locker room. Not saying Chase wasn't, right? But just I think J.K. elevated his game in the way that he transformed from 2018 to 2019, became a leader on and off the field. In my mind, he's the MVP.
Yeah, Tim, you can.
Are we picking now or
yeah,
later?
you're picking now because I got it.
Because I look
more guys.
I look at his co-MVPs as the two guys that went to the Heisman
You
Trophy.
can't do co.
No, only because
Only Tim can do co. You can't do co.
Let me explain. I mean, I'm like the New York Times. I can do co. You don't know what that means because you don't read New York Times.
No,
but
I don't.
digress.
There's no political humor.
Yeah.
I read Twitter, Tim.
Yeah, they named two front runners, or they named two people. They endorsed two people for the Democratic nomination.
Oh, Ohio
they
State
couldn't
has
name
co-coordinators. You can
Here's
do
the point.
But you
Chase
can't
Young,
do co.
Chase Young and Justin Fields both influenced how you played against Ohio State offensively and defensively because of the dual threat quarterback until he got banged up, and then Chase Young, until it became legal to wrap your arm around him to stop him. You had to account for him on every play he was in there. That's why I look at it. But if I point at one, I'm always going offensively, and I'm going Justin Fields because, once again, you had a Ohio State quarterback produce more than 50 touchdowns.
It's pretty
That's
good.
Crazy numbers.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a good pick. I really do. But Justin Fields coming back this year, I think
it
this
made
year,
J.K. better.
I think this year more than any other year, especially last year with Justin's first year, the quarterback has to elevate the offense, right?
Yeah.
You're going to have a young running back who it's kind of in question, right? You're going to have some really young wide receivers outside of Chris Olave, and Garrett Wilson still is considered young, right? Yeah, so you're going to have a bunch of young wide receivers. You're going to have some young tight ends, right? So all across the board, you're going to have a young offense. In my mind, this is no bigger year for an Ohio State quarterback to step up, become a leader, be the MVP of a team. Yeah. And, it wasn't the case last year.
Coach Marotti, I think, already commented saying basically this is a different cat.
Oh, yeah.
And let's be honest, Coach Marotti does not say that.
He doesn't.
Unless you're
gone.
Unless you are really doing what he's asked of you and really elevating your game, Coach Marotti is as real as it gets.
It's surprising to hear him.
A minute ago, I was waving at my grandson. So.
That's right. It's time for him to go hang out with his grandson. Reid got his segment. We've got Zach out of here. We got one more to go here on the Lettermen Rowquiem, brought to you by Schoedinger and our friends at Land-Grant. One more. Hang with us. We'll be right back. All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Lettermen Rowquiem, final segment of a very fun afternoon. For those of you that came to hang out, cheers to you. It was a fun 2019 season. Thanks for coming out to Land-Grant. We got James down there. Yep. You guys know Evan and Jake. James, you've got. We've been picking through these buckets pretty well, but you guys have 3 beers that have some nice scarlet and gray ties to it.
Yeah.
And what do we have out here?
Yeah, so I'll start over here. We have Stiff Arm IPA, which you can find in the stadium. What that is really, really good beer, traditional IPA. Over here we have the 7-0 Ale, which you can find in the Pint House over in Dublin, and then over here. We have Skull Session, which is also in the stadium. So
this is the one that we
so Evan and
tall boys are going down real easy.
they're slugging them down over here.
Yeah,
so
we were the last ones on, so we were able to participate.
That means this segment will be fun.
When you guys got to go through Skull Session, just to parlay off what James has.
I didn't even think of. Yeah, that's crazy. I didn't even think of
about it.
Yeah.
Like that sort of experience, and then on the way to the horseshoe, like. How cool is that on Saturdays when you're on the way in, getting ready to play, and that's packed with 4,000 people at St. John?
Oh, if you got a night game or a big game, that is like almost a highlight until the game is walking in that Skull Session because it is electric.
Yeah.
Now, if Urban goes up to you before, hey, you got to give a seat up there, you're like, dude, you just ruined my Skull Session.
Totally.
But that walk, that atmosphere, it is it's something I really didn't even think about until you just said it. And it brings back a lot of great memories because it's so quick and done, and it's all you think about is the game. But that little 5 minutes of being there it's sweet.
Evan, I'm sure as a captain you had the mic in there, right?
Yeah, I mean, trust me, that's the reason why I'm laughing because I was thinking the exact same thing. Like, darn, all right, now I got to be stressful and anxious packed here. But no, I mean, I think that. The reason why it was so cool for us is, especially in those night games, like, we're just sitting up in the Blackwell waiting, right? Like, so all day, all we get to do is watch all the other teams go off. And then, that first taste, that first kind of like vibe with the fans is in the Skull Session. So, obviously it's that first like, oh, okay, right. Like, now time to turn the switch on. I mean, it's not really that time yet, but It's just one of those great things that
when you walk in there,
Yeah,
and
sure.
it's a big game.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
It's go time.
You leave walking out like, yeah, okay. We're feeling good. And you got the police escort in front of you.
I bet for James and Land-Grant, they're going to take Evan's description. It's your first taste of game day. Like that's
Yeah, we'll see if we can apply that to the can. So let's hope we don't get a frivolous lawsuit or anything like that. So
Got to be careful. Got to be
Okay,
careful
I'll be
with
nice.
that. This is Liberty, by the way. She's also joining us for the final segment.
Hi, Liberty.
She
playing
has
with
not
my
had
mic.
any skull session.
No
That's
skull
good.
session
skull
for her
session.
yet.
Absolutely not.
James, as a fan of Ohio State and somebody who's got their beer being sold in the Horseshoe, when you think back on 2019, we're not going to talk about the Fiesta Bowl anymore at this point.
Yep.
What's going to be your first memory of this team?
to me, it was just the amount of just coming out and just blowing teams out. To be honest with you, I haven't seen it in my lifetime. I've been a Buckeye my entire life, and to be able to just really just put the hammer down on every team, that's what I'll remember.
Yeah, I'm with you. Up until I don't know. Were I supposed to talk to you?
You can do it.
Up until that interception, I never had a doubt they would ever even come
No.
close to losing a game. Not even in a moment where I was like, uh-oh. Even when that game when they were still down, you're like, oh,
Yeah.
when are they going to win?
Right.
And so sitting here today, it's like that is probably what I would think of too. Is it was the whole season like we're just winning this whole thing.
Right.
There's no doubt in my mind. It was the best team I had seen even from playing.
Totally.
They were like,
Totally.
sheesh.
Right. I mean, like when you're out there watching them play, there aren't any plays missed. There aren't many balls on the ground, right? The receivers are running and getting open. The running backs are hitting holes and running away from people. So when you go into a game like that, I mean, I had the chance to talk about it, slightly before this and doing a little pregame, but like, when you're playing another team that's that good, right? And my chips look exactly like your chips on the table, right? And now it's about execution,
Right.
It's tough, right? So you go from 3 months, 4 months, however many months of flawless execution, rolling over everybody to some preventable mistakes, right? It's definitely kind of a weird dynamic to look at, but I mean it was very, very fun to watch them do their thing.
I
all
think
season.
that's what, for me, and I don't know if it's the same for you guys, but sometimes when I cover you guys playing or go through a year, like they feel like they take forever. Like 2018 to me felt like it took 10 years, and August was so long, and we know that the circumstances were unique for that. But 2019, I feel like the Florida Atlantic game was yesterday.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like,
it's because we were all waiting for literally that Clemson game, and it was like we are a juggernaut. Until we get there, we aren't going to get to prove. We already know we're the best team in the Big Ten. We want to win it all, and it was like we had such lofty expectations that because we didn't hit it, it still feels like a disappointment.
It's wild to think back, like how quickly it all went, and because we were having these discussions like every week on Lettermen Live and Buckeye Q, like this is going to be the test. Like you're going to Nebraska, you're going on the road in the Big Ten, or you're about to play Wisconsin and the number one defense, or even Michigan. Like every week, it's like, when's the test going to come? When's the test going to come? Or is this going to be it? And it never really happened for them. Yeah. Like you're saying, you're waiting for Clemson, but they played really good teams and they beat them all so easily. It was just
didn't feel like they played good teams.
Yeah, right. But I mean, there is an elite
were.
caliber to some of these cats that we're playing
Yeah.
too, right? I mean, like not to say that the Iowas or the Penn States or any of these other teams that are in the Big Ten aren't proficient and great at their craft and compete well against other conferences, but you always know who the Ohio State, the Clemsons, the Georgias, the Alabamas, the LSUs are of the world because they have those recruits, they have the coaching, and they have the support staff to go be great, right? So, when we have a machine that's as well oiled as it is, and we saw that early on, right? Some of those expectations start to, every day, that's all everybody's talking about. And it's like, okay, well, we put 50 up week one and, beat them by 40 week two and all the way onwards, right? But like, does that plateau? Does that start to diminish over time? Like, does our ability to meet expectations diminish over time? How does that affect us in important games when, we thought we were playing the team that was supposed to be all high and mighty, and we kicked the heck out of them.
Yeah.
And, now we play the almighty team, and we have simple, dumb mistakes, right? Like, I mean, there's a million layers in it.
That was even how it went against Penn State. You got late in the year and it was like, okay, here's the gauntlet, and it was like you had all these turnovers, and they still won that game by 11, right? He could have beat Penn State by 30. They could have beat Clemson by 30.
Yeah.
They could have. I mean, they beat Michigan by 30. They could have beat them by 60.
Yeah, we were constantly waiting as a fan, just waiting for that moment, and it never happened until Clemson, unfortunately. And even then, I never doubted it. I mean, we were driving with Justin, and unfortunately, just broke off the route, and it was a pick. But
how far? I want to phrase this right, because Justin obviously he exceeded my expectations for what he could do as a dual threat, mainly as a passer. Like, how far did he exceed your expectations for what he could do in year one?
He threw one pick.
Yeah, I mean,
one.
Like, he was in a
You win.
different school, came here, and absorbed the offense, executed with a whole new cast of characters, right? And was able to find himself and compete at this highest level. Like,
That coming in as knowing nobody, and then to me, obviously that one pick. My senior year, if you threw one pick, that's not that big of a deal because we threw it 4 times a game. You would hope we don't have a pick. Well, when they're slinging it like they are, and the amount of touchdowns he threw to only have one mistake, not counting Fiesta Bowl, that's unbelievable. You just look at our team, how many guys they had even finishing the Heisman.
right. I definitely did not have that.
Growing up, I grew up in Columbus. I watched every Ohio State team since I can remember. It seems a lot like, I forget if it was either 96 or 97, where they were unbelievable the whole year, lost in the Rose Bowl. I was like, that was the best team we've seen, and it didn't count for anything. Didn't count for anything, but when you see that good of a team, you expect national championship or bust, especially from an Ohio State's fan or former players. This year, it was like, okay, these could be tests, but we need to win this whole thing. They still won the Big Ten. They beat Michigan. They got to the playoffs. All that, probably 99.9% of other teams would be like, that was a hell of a year.
Absolutely.
Everyone in here would be like, it was a good year, but damn.
Well, once you to the point that you're making, once you see the expectation, right? It's like, and especially as players, right? Like, I mean, you feel it, right? It's almost like, holy cow, that's a team that I wish I could have played for. I wish I could have ran
whooped our team.
Diggs. I wish I could have ran Diggs in this. But you think about that when you're then going up against a worthy opponent. You want to be able to see that level of execution. So then, to Jake's point, right? Yes, we're asking for the world, and we want to see the top of the mountain and win a national championship. But also, like, you got to earn it, right? And especially when you're playing those next level cats, right? I mean,
well, you have to earn it, and you hope that an official doesn't take it away from you. But that's a whole other conversation we've had a bunch of times. We've taken up a bunch of time here at Land-Grant this afternoon. We're starting to wrap it up here. It's been a great time. The Lettermen Rowquiem. James, everybody's had to answer this so far. So 2019 season MVP, who you got?
J.K. Dobbins.
A lot of votes coming for Dobbins today.
Yeah. J.K. Dobbins for sure.
Wow.
I mean, you got to just think about it, man. Like, how many games was he able to control the clock and wind it down in the fourth
Games
quarter?
that he didn't even play full games. I mean, how many full games did he play?
Okay, so
he missed.
Fair. But I'm talking about
the
towards the latter half of the season, right? We're playing Michigan. We're going through the Big Ten championship. We're getting in playing Clemson, right? Like when we needed to run dynamically and get more than 4 yards and control the down and distance and be ahead, from a first, second down perspective, right? Like, he was the guy that was called on. So that's him for me.
I'm torn between Dobbins and Fields. To me, Fields doesn't have the year if he doesn't have Dobbins.
Yeah.
Sure.
Dobbins still probably could have that year, but Fields took a lot of pressure off them having to just only focus on him. I'm going to go with Fields. I think
Keep it a diverse panel.
Yeah, I think the difference between Master Teague and Dobbins is really, really big.
Yeah,
but I still think the difference between Fields and any backup we had would be detrimental to our team tenfold. I think him coming in from never being at Ohio State, never having our system, and gathering all that knowledge in a spring and a fall camp, and then performing like that. I think he's the reason we were so good. I think we could have won all those games without him anyways if it was a different, maybe not our backups. Dobbins was that type of a phenomenal back, but Fields took us to that, okay, they could win any type of game, just how Trevor Lawrence has. I think he's the MVP of their team versus their amazing running back in ATN. Same thing with LSU. They have a phenomenal running back, but at the end of the day, it all runs through the quarterback. that's my opinion. Or you go Chase Young as well. But I think as the whole, Fields was a signal caller, the leader, and he performed at a high level that probably overexceeded all of our expectations. We knew J.K. was a real deal.
Right.
We had no idea that Justin was going to come out and do that.
I think when we started today, I was more convinced that it was Justin Fields than the steady stream of you guys talking about J.K. Dobbins. But I do believe, and I'm not out on a huge limb, that going from Fields to Chris Chugginoff would have been a major change. And you're not really talking about one of the greatest teams of all time. No offense to Chug, if he's your quarterback.
That's fair.
But, Teague had a really good year, and he struggled late. Dobbins especially had 2,000 yards. But I do tend to agree with the argument that you guys have made that they couldn't have done it without each other. And that's what made him special. And now we're about to find out just how much of that was Fields in 2020, what Master Teague can do. Because, if you look at this running back position moving forward without J.K. Dobbins, maybe that's when his true value might show up.
Really.
And we'll
At
see.
the beginning of the year, we were like, holy shit, Master Teague. Yeah. Nothing against him towards the end, but we realized the difference between him and J.K. You're like, that J.K., that is a different back.
Yeah.
Master Teague's a great back. J.K. is, he's all, 2,000 yards in one season. That's just
it's special.
We'll miss that next year. There's no doubt about it.
How many yards do you think he would have rushed for if he would have played full game? 3,000?
Unbelievable. How many stats all those guys had and how little amount of fourth quarters they played.
Scary.
It is. But also, if they're in the game, it's a closer game. Maybe those stats aren't the same, but still,
They would have been way better than Jonathan Taylor's, and then we wouldn't have had to talk about J.K. getting snubbed for every award, which is really, I think, one of the big shames of 2019, beyond the Fiesta Bowl, is J.K. not getting any love as the best running back.
Or
Okuda.
Oh, my God. That is unbelievable.
Thorpe Award, yep.
It was like I thought I saw a stat, like one touchdown in his coverage in NFL and in college.
Yeah.
And he had his best season yet. But, of course, because LSU wins it all, they win every single award.
And as James was texting me when those awards were coming out. It's like, well, he's not even the best. Delpit's not even the best DB on LSU's team.
No.
And we'll see. The draft is coming up in a couple months. Maybe we'll be right back out here at Land-Grant drinking some beers to break that down.
Yeah, I wouldn't
As
hate
we
it.
turn to 2020, he'll get his money then. He'll get his comeuppance.
I don't think he's too worried
No, I
about
don't think
not
he is
winning
either.
that Thorpe when that number 2 or 3 pick comes off the board.
Yeah.
Like,
A lot of those Buckeyes will be feeling good. But
Great phone call.
That'll help us turn the page to 2020. Hope today has as well. The Lettermen Rowquiem, James Kosht down there, Evan Spencer, Jake Stoneburner, Beanie Wells, Reid Fragel, Zach Boren, our friends at what's that?
A whole bunch of the cast of
BB
characters.
Landers, Rashad Berry, and our putting it all together, Schoedinger Funeral and Cremation Services. Liberty Chain Ward as well. Spencer behind the camera, Will Crawl. This has been a huge production. We did our best to pull it off.
Will who?
Yeah, Will Crawl. You might know him.
Yeah.
He's pulling the strings. I am just Austin Ward. This has been a great time. I hope everybody here, everybody that watches this later, I hope it comes together the way you wanted. Cheers to the 2019 football season. Here's to 2020 for the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Let's get it.
Stay with us at Lettermen Row. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe below to get the latest videos from Lettermen Row.
We got Lettermen Live, we've got the practice report, we got rapid reaction. Hey, and we got Buckeye IQ with Zach Boren.
For sure. We got recruiting breakdowns with Berm. We got whatever you need. Ohio State football and Ohio State athletics, we've got you covered here at Lettermen Row.